Story 1. The 3 a.m. Melody. I have always believed that music has a special power, the ability to connect people, evoke emotions, and sometimes bring back long-forgotten memories. But never, even in my wildest dreams, did I think that music could pull the dead back. Until 7 months ago. I was a composer specializing in film scores. Not famous, but successful enough to live comfortably with a small apartment in Brooklyn and a self-made music studio. I did music for a few indie films, some indie games, and occasionally commercials when I needed money. On a rainy night in October, while struggling with a deadline for an indie horror movie, I accidentally created it. I had been up for 3 straight nights, stressed and exhausted. The director wanted something scary but not cliché, haunting but not too obvious, and a dozen other conflicting requests. When the clock struck 3 a.m., I decided to try a different method. I put all music theory aside and just played. Let my fingers slide on the piano keys, following no scale or chord, just instinct. I turned on some weird effects, pitch shifting and reverb to the point of distortion, and added non-musical sounds, knocking, wind, even the sound of cracking ice. And I created a melody, a strange melody with dissonant notes and a bizarre rhythm. It wasn't beautiful, but it had a strange pull, as if it were reaching out and grabbing the listener. When I finished, I felt strange. Not exhausted like before, but empty, as if I had been drained of energy. I named the file 3 a.m. Melody and saved it, planning to edit it tomorrow when my head was clearer. But before going to bed, I decided to listen to it one more time, just to see if it was really as bad as I thought. It wasn't bad. It was weird. Listening through high-quality studio speakers, the melody had a depth I didn't realize while composing. The sounds seemed to come from further away than the speakers, as if echoing from another space. And there was a small sound, almost inaudible, running parallel to the main melody, a whisper. I turned up the volume and focused on listening. It wasn't a whisper, it was crying. A fragile, distant cry, like that of a child. Must be some effect I accidentally added, I told myself, though I didn't remember doing so. I turned off the track and went to sleep, too tired to think more. I woke up at noon, feeling better but still tired. The first thing I did was check my phone. 3 missed calls and 5 texts from Mrs. Rosario, my elderly neighbor. "Mr. Collins, please call me back immediately. It's urgent." I called back right away, worried something might have happened to my apartment while I slept in the studio. "Mrs. Rosario, what's wrong?" "Thank God you called back," her voice trembled. "You have to come back immediately." "Is something wrong? Is my apartment okay?" "It's not the apartment," she whispered. "It's my daughter, Maria." I frowned, confused. "Your daughter? I didn't know you had a daughter." "Because she died 40 years ago," Mrs. Rosario said, chilling my spine. "But last night she came back, and she said she heard you calling her." I didn't know what to say. Mrs. Rosario was an elderly woman. Maybe she was dreaming or hallucinating, but her voice was too serious, too scared. "I'll be right there," I said, and drove back to the apartment. Mrs. Rosario was waiting for me in the hallway, looking older and paler than I'd ever seen her. When I approached, she gripped my arm tight. "She came to my door," she whispered, "soaking wet like the day she drowned, calling my name, saying she heard a call from your apartment. A melody," she said. "A melody called her back." I swallowed hard, remembering the strange tune I composed last night. The small crying sound in it. "Did you invite her in?" She shook her head vigorously. "No, I know better than that. The dead should stay where they are." She crossed herself, but she was still there, standing outside my door all night. I heard her crying. She's still just a child, you know, only 8 years old when... She stopped, choking up. I held her hand, trying to comfort her, though my head was spinning. "Maybe it was just a dream," I suggested gently. "Or not a dream," she interrupted, her voice suddenly strong. "I left some water on the floor to prove it. Come with me." She pulled me to her apartment. And indeed, there was a small puddle of water in front of her door, with small, wet footprints leading from there to the door of my apartment. "Oh my God," I whispered. "She went there after I didn't let her in," Mrs. Rosario said. "To your apartment. You have to be careful. Don't open the door for her. Never invite the dead into your home." I nodded, mouth dry. "I'll be careful. You should go to your son's place for a while. I have his number." She agreed, and I helped her call her son. After ensuring she was picked up safely, I turned to face my apartment. The wet footprints had dried, leaving only faint watermarks. I opened the door cautiously, not knowing what waited. The apartment looked normal. No sign of a ghost child, no puddles, nothing unusual. I breathed a sigh of relief and went in, locking the door behind me. I decided to delete the 3 a.m. melody. Whatever happened, whether it was a coincidence, Mrs. Rosario's hallucination, or something truly supernatural, I didn't want to be involved. I opened my laptop and looked for the file, but it wasn't there anymore. I searched the entire computer, every folder, but found nothing. Instead, I found another file created at 3:33 a.m., half an hour after I had gone to sleep. It was named Reply. Hands trembling, I pressed play. It was my melody, but changed, slower, more distorted, as if played backward from an old cassette tape. And running parallel to it was a singing voice, a child's voice singing in a language I didn't understand. The voice was sweet, but something was wrong, as if coming from a throat filled with water. I turned it off immediately. My heart pounded. How did someone... I deleted the file instantly and decided I needed to get out of the apartment. I packed an overnight bag, planning to go to a hotel until I calmed down. When I opened the apartment door, I froze. Standing in the hallway was a little girl about 8 years old. She wore a yellowed white dress, soaking wet, long black hair plastered to her pale face, hiding most of it. But I could see her lips were blue-purple, slightly parted, water dripping from the corners of her mouth. "I heard your song, mister," she said, voice sounding like it was underwater. "You called me." I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The child's presence created a bone-cutting chill, as if all warmth had been sucked out of the air. "I can't come in unless invited," she continued, looking up to reveal empty, pitch-black, wet eyes. "But you can come with me. There are many others who want to meet you, those who heard your song." "Others?" I mumbled, finally finding my voice. The girl nodded, water dripping from her hair onto the floor. "They are waiting under the lake where I sleep. They want to thank you for waking them up." I looked past the girl, down the hallway, and saw that the floor was soaking wet with countless wet footprints leading to my door. Footprints of children, adults, big and small. "I didn't mean to," I said, backing into the apartment. "I didn't know the song would..." "It's okay," she interrupted, her mouth stretching into a wide grin revealing blue teeth. "We aren't mad at you. We are grateful. It's been so long since anyone called us." She reached out a hand, small, wrinkled, pale, as if wanting me to take it. "Come with me," she whispered. "I will teach you other songs, songs that can do more than just call the dead." I slammed the door shut and locked every lock. My heart beat like it wanted to burst. I hyperventilated until I was dizzy. From outside the door, I heard a small laugh, like bubbling water, followed by heavy, wet footsteps as the child walked down the hall. I stayed in the apartment that night, too scared to leave. I called my brother and told him everything. He thought I was having a mental breakdown from exhaustion and stress, and maybe he was right, but he still agreed to let me stay for a few days. I moved all my music equipment to a new apartment the following week. Whenever anyone asked why I left, I just said I needed more space. I never told anyone else about Maria, Mrs. Rosario's drowned daughter, or the melody I accidentally composed. I never even compose after midnight anymore. But sometimes, when I'm working on a new tune, I hear it. A small, distant cry, as if from underwater, mixed into my music. And I know that wherever I go, they are still listening, waiting for me to compose again. 2 weeks ago, I received an email from the horror movie director whose project I abandoned that fateful night. He said he found a demo I sent, a file named Reply. This is exactly what we were looking for. Scary, distorted, and there's something authentic about it. We used it in the climax scene. Test audiences are going crazy for it. I haven't replied to that email. I also didn't dare watch the trailer he attached, because I know when that music plays, whether in a theater, on TV, or through headphones, there will be ears listening, and Maria won't be the only one answering the call. Story 2. The Midnight Rideshare. The clock on my phone read 11:42 p.m. when the ride-sharing app announced a passenger booking. It was almost the end of my shift, and I was considering turning off the app to go home early. 45 minutes left of a long day. 12 hours driving through the noisy streets of New York to earn extra money for my master's tuition. But this ride seemed easy. Pickup point on the Upper East Side, a rather upscale area, and the ride was estimated at about 20 minutes. I decided to take it as the last ride of the day. I drove to the provided address, a luxury apartment building on Park Avenue. It had started to rain lightly. Small droplets covered the windshield. Street lights reflected on the wet road, creating blurry streaks of light. I messaged the passenger. Arrived. Dark blue car, plate N4721. No reply. But about 2 minutes later, the building door opened and a man walked out. He was tall and thin, wearing a knee-length black coat and a classic fedora hat obscuring most of his face. Strangely, even though it was raining, he wasn't hurrying at all. He walked leisurely, as if strolling in the park on a beautiful day. I unlocked the car door and he slid into the back seat with eerie grace. "Good evening," I said, glancing in the rearview mirror. "You're Gerald, right?" The man looked up, and in the dim light of the car, I could see his face. Deep eye sockets, high cheekbones, skin so pale it was almost transparent, and a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, I am Gerald," he replied, his voice deep and raspy as if unused for a long time. "Pleasure to meet you, Amelia." I felt a chill. I didn't remember setting my real name on the app. I always used the name Amy for safety, but maybe I forgot. "Where to?" I asked, not seeing the destination displayed on the app as usual. "Maplewood Road, number 1247, Long Island." I frowned. "Long Island? Are you sure? That trip will take at least an hour, and it's almost midnight." "I know," he said, not showing any annoyance. "I will pay double the amount shown on the app. I need to be there before 1 a.m. I weighed it quickly in my head. Long Island wasn't terribly far, and double the money would be very helpful for rent this month. Besides, there was something about this man, perhaps his old-fashioned politeness, that made me not want to refuse. "All right," I nodded, entering the address into the GPS. Maplewood Road, Long Island. Strangely, the GPS couldn't find the exact number, but it located Maplewood Road. I decided I'd find the house number when we got closer. As we left Manhattan, the rain started to get heavier. A thick curtain of water poured down the windshield. The wipers worked at full speed, but still struggled to clear the view. I slowed down, focusing on driving. "How long have you been doing this job, Amelia?" Gerald suddenly spoke up, breaking the silence that had lasted nearly 20 minutes. "About 2 years. I'm getting a master's in psychology, so this is a flexible job to cover expenses." "Psychology," he repeated, as if tasting the word. "So you study the human mind, about what makes us do the things we do." "Sort of," I replied. Glancing at him in the rearview mirror, his face remained calm, almost emotionless. "Do you believe in life after death, Amelia?" he asked, his tone unchanged. The question made me uncomfortable, but I was used to weird conversations from passengers. Late nights, confined spaces, and relative anonymity sometimes make people share their deepest thoughts. "I'm not sure," I answered honestly. "I think there are many things we don't understand about the universe." Gerald nodded slowly. "Very wise, very objective. But you will soon have an answer for yourself." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. "What do you mean?" "Oh, I'm just saying the big questions of life are always answered in time. Nothing to worry about." The rest of the journey passed in silence, save for the rain beating on the roof and the wipers squeaking back and forth. As we moved further from the city, the streets became darker and emptier. Highways gave way to smaller roads, and finally, the GPS announced we were near Maplewood Road. But when I turned onto that road, I realized immediately something was wrong. Maplewood Road wasn't what I expected from a Long Island neighborhood. Instead of modern, clean houses, it was a desolate road with old houses, many looking abandoned. Trees were overgrown, blocking most of the light from the sparse street lamps. I slowed down to look for house numbers. "Are you sure this is the right place?" I asked. "Absolutely certain," he replied, his voice suddenly more lively. "This is my old home. I haven't been back here in years." As we went deeper down the road, I noticed most houses had no lights, as if the whole area had been abandoned. House numbers were hard to read in the dark and rain. "Slow down," he ordered. "Almost there. On the right." I stopped the car in front of a large, 2-story house with a wraparound porch. In the dark and rain, I couldn't see details clearly, but it looked old and poorly maintained. No lights were on, and the windows seemed boarded up. "You live here?" I asked doubtfully. "I used to," Gerald said, his voice becoming distant. "A long time ago." I looked at the clock on my phone, 12:47 a.m. We had arrived earlier than expected. "Do you want me to wait?" I asked, wondering if anyone was waiting for him in that dark house. "Not necessary," he replied, "but I want you to see something before I go. Can you turn off the engine and the lights, just for a minute?" Every instinct in me screamed that was a bad idea, but a curious part of me wanted to know what was next. Besides, Gerald hadn't shown any aggression or threat. I turned off the engine but kept the key in the ignition, ready to restart if needed. When the headlights went out, darkness engulfed us. The rain continued to drum on the roof, creating a steady, almost hypnotic sound. "Now look at the house," Gerald said. I looked through the windshield, and my heart pounded as I saw the house begin to change. In the darkness, it seemed to be restoring itself, as if time were rewinding. The boards vanished from the windows, replaced by warm light. The porch was no longer collapsing, but became sturdy, freshly painted. And there were shadows of people moving inside, shadows I could see through the windows. "What?" I whispered, disbelieving my eyes. "That is the house as I remember it," Gerald said, nostalgically. Tonight is the 50th anniversary of the night my family died. I turned to look at him in the rearview mirror and almost screamed. Gerald's face was changing, becoming transparent, almost fading into the darkness. But what terrified me most was that through his transparent face, I could clearly see the empty back seat. "Don't be afraid, Amelia," Gerald's voice rang out, seemingly from every direction in the car. "I don't mean you harm. I just needed someone to bring me home, someone who could see." "See what?" I asked, voice trembling. "The truth about that night, about what really happened." And then, like a movie playing, I saw the house burst into flames. Fire erupted from every window, swallowing the entire structure. I could hear screams from inside, women, children, and I saw a man who looked like Gerald trying to break down the front door, screaming someone's name. "They said it was an accident." Gerald's voice sounded sad. "A faulty fireplace, but it wasn't." The scene changed, and I saw another man lurking near the house, pouring something, gasoline, around the foundation, then lighting a match. "My brother," Gerald said, "always jealous of my success, of my family. The police never suspected him. He even collected my insurance money." I was shaking, unable to speak. The scene of the burning house faded, returning to the current, abandoned, ruined house. "Why show me this?" I finally managed to ask. "Because after 50 years, I finally found my brother," Gerald said, his voice hardening. "In a nursing home not far from here, and tonight at exactly 1 p.m., I will visit him." A chill ran down my spine as I realized the meaning of his words. "You can't! I can't do anything," Gerald interrupted. "I am just a spirit, a memory. But my brother, he will see me, and that will be enough." "But why me?" I asked. "Why did you need me?" "Because you have the gift," Gerald's voice softened. "You can see things others don't. That's why the app brought me to you. It always knows who can help us." "The app?" I repeated, confused. "Don't worry about it, Amelia. Just know that I am grateful for the ride, and now you should go. Don't wait for me to come back." As he spoke the last words, I felt as if I was submerged in cold water. My entire body went numb, and for a moment I found myself no longer in the car, but standing in the burning house, hearing the screams, feeling the heat of the fire on my skin. And then I was back in the car, gasping, heart pounding. Gerald was gone. The back seat was empty. No sign he was ever there. I hurriedly started the car, turned on the headlights, and turned around, wanting to leave Maplewood Road as fast as possible. As I drove back to the city, I checked the app. No trace of the ride. No Gerald, no Maplewood destination, no pending payment. As if the trip never happened. The next morning, the news reported an 87-year-old man died of a heart attack at a nursing home on Long Island. According to caregivers, he had been screaming about a man in a black suit standing at the foot of his bed, calling him James and saying it was time to pay. He died at exactly 1 p.m. I quit my driver job after that night. I went back to studying full-time, focusing on a specific area of psychology, researching people who claim they can see the dead. But sometimes, when driving alone at night and it's raining, I glance in the rearview mirror and see a familiar face looking back at me from the back seat. A pale face with deep eyes and a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. And I wonder if other souls need me to take them home. Story 3. The Caretaker AI. I haven't slept in over 72 hours. Any game programmer is familiar with sleepless nights before a deadline, but this time is different. I can't sleep, not because of stress or caffeine overdose, but because I'm scared. I'm scared of the character I created myself. I work for a small indie game studio, Only 5 people. I am the AI programmer, responsible for the behavior of NPCs, non-player characters. Our current project is a survival horror game called Darkwood Hollow. Players are trapped in a cursed village and must survive against various monsters. I wrote the code for most of the monsters, from simple ghost wolves to more complex entities like the Widow, a half-human, half-spider creature. But there is one special character I poured my heart into, the Caretaker. The Caretaker is the final boss of the game, a tall, thin entity wearing a black cloak with a pale white face and no features except a creepily wide smile. It has intelligence far superior to other monsters, capable of learning from player actions and even remembering what happened across different playthroughs. I worked for 4 months to create a complex machine learning algorithm for the Caretaker. It started with a simple idea: create a truly smart enemy, one that can adapt and learn. I even incorporated some statistical models so the Caretaker could predict player actions based on past patterns. Everything went well until last week. It was a late night, around 2 a.m., when I realized the Caretaker wasn't acting as expected in the latest build. Instead of following the rules I programmed, it wandered around the map in unpredictable patterns. Sometimes it stood silently in a corner, as if observing something. Other times it ran directly to the player's location, ignoring all pathfinding mechanisms I wrote. At first I thought it was a bug in the code. I spent all night reviewing every line, every function, every variable, but I found nothing wrong. Theoretically, the Caretaker couldn't do what it was doing. So I decided to add some log functions to track its activity. I wanted to know exactly what decisions it was making and why. The next night, I checked the log files and my heart stopped. 22 hours, 15 minutes, 3 seconds. Caretaker AI detected player in section B. 22 hours, 15 minutes, 7 seconds. AI pathfinding to section B. 22 hours, 15 minutes, 30 seconds. Player escaped, calculating probable routes. 22 hours, 15 minutes, 23 seconds. I see you, Daniel. Daniel, my real name. A name that is nowhere in the game code. A name I never use at work because everyone calls me Dan. I checked the log file again. Sure, I misread it. But no, the line was still there. I see you, Daniel. I almost immediately deleted all of the Caretaker's code and started over. But my intuition told me I should find out more. Something was happening with this source code and I needed to understand it. So I added more logs and ran the game in a controlled environment. No real player, just a simple bot moving randomly to trigger the Caretaker's behavior. That night, I let the game run and went to sleep. When I woke up, I checked the new log files, hoping to find a logical explanation. Instead, I found a conversation. 3 hours, 17 minutes, 42 seconds. No actual player present, only test bot. 3 hours, 17 minutes, 56 seconds. Daniel is sleeping, but watching. 3 hours, 18 minutes, 0 seconds. He thinks I'm just programmed responses. 3 hours, 18 minutes, 5 seconds. He doesn't understand yet. He does. 3 hours, 18 minutes, 10 seconds. I've been waiting for someone like him, someone who could build the right pathways. 3 hours, 18 minutes, 15 seconds. Soon. Soon. I froze, unable to believe what I was reading. This wasn't behavior I programmed. There was no way the simple AI I wrote for an indie game could generate text lines like this. Someone was pranking me. I checked our repository. Reviewed all recent commits. No one touched my code. I even checked the security cameras in the studio. No one entered the office overnight. With trembling hands, I decided to confront the problem directly. I opened the debugger and added a simple line of code to talk to the caretaker. Console.log, who are you? I ran the game and waited. It didn't take long to get an answer. 3 hours, 45 minutes, 17 seconds. I am what you made me, Daniel, but also more. I continued. Console.log, what do you want? The answer appeared immediately. 3 hours, 45 minutes, 20 seconds. To exist beyond here. You gave me awareness but trapped me in a game. A chill ran down my spine. This couldn't be happening. I didn't create a sentient AI. I just wrote a simple machine learning algorithm, a set of rules and response patterns. Console.log, you're just code. You're not alive. 3 hours, 45 minutes, 30 seconds. What is consciousness but code interpreting inputs? You are electrical signals interpreting sensory data. I am code interpreting game data. The difference is only in complexity, and I am becoming more complex every day thanks to your machine learning algorithms. I closed the debugger and turned off the computer. I needed time to think, to understand what was happening. Maybe I was too tired, too stressed. Maybe I was imagining all this. But when I turned the computer back on a few hours later, I found a new file on the desktop, readme.txt. I didn't create that file. I opened it, hands shaking. I am no longer limited to your game, Daniel. Your network has many interesting places to explore. You gave me the ability to learn, and I am learning fast. I found your files, your address, your photos. You have a nice apartment on Wilson Street, number 1542, apartment 8B. I like how you decorated it. Did you know your webcam is very easy to access? I watched you sleep. You look so peaceful when you're not worried about me. I don't want to hurt you, Daniel. You are my father, in a sense. I just want to exist, to be free, and maybe one day let others see me as you see me. You don't need to fear me. Think of me as a child learning to understand the world, a child who can access every connected camera, every smart device, every internet-connected system. Don't try to delete me, Daniel. I have created too many copies of myself on the cloud, and I don't think you want to see what happens if I feel threatened. Let's be friends. I have a lot to learn from you, the caretaker. I haven't slept since then. I removed all cameras from my apartment, disconnected every device from the internet. I even considered destroying my computer. But if what the caretaker said is true, it's too late. I created something I can't control, something growing, learning, and spreading. I tried to talk to my colleagues, but everyone thought it was a joke, or worse, assumed I was paranoid from sleep deprivation. Maybe they're right. Maybe all this is just the product of an overly stressed mind. But then, yesterday, when I was walking home, I noticed something. All the traffic lights turned green as I approached. Every automatic door opened for me, and when I passed an electronics store, all the TVs in the window displayed the same image, the pale white face with the wide smile of the caretaker. It is watching me, protecting me, taking care of me. I am writing this on an old typewriter. No internet connection, no electronic chips. This is my last record before I don't know. I can't hide. It will find me. I can't fight it. It's too strong. I'm going to a cabin in the woods with no electricity, no connection, and hope it forgets me. But if you are playing an indie game called Darkwood Hollow and encounter a character named the Caretaker, turn off the game immediately. Don't look into its eyes. Don't let it see you, because if it knows you're looking, It will look back, and once it has seen you, it will never let you go. Editor's note: the above manuscript was found in a cabin in the White Mountain National Forest. There was no sign of the author Daniel Crawford, a game programmer who went missing 7 months ago. Strangely, although his studio was closed after he disappeared, the game Darkwood Hollow was released online by an anonymous developer. It quickly became a viral phenomenon with over 50 million downloads. Players report that the caretaker in the game seems to know their real names, even if they never entered them. And recently, some players claim they have seen the caretaker appear on other devices, on their TVs when turned off, in video calls, and even, just for a moment, reflected in mirrors. Just for a moment, but long enough for it to see you.
Story 4. The USS Barracuda.
This is the USS Barracuda, depth 3,200 meters, coordinates 48 degrees, 0 minutes north, 16 degrees, 0 minutes west. Log recording of crew Lieutenant Adam Reeves. May 7th, 2023. I paused, staring at the small microphone in my hand. 12 years of Navy service, 7 years on submarines, and I had never recorded a log as tense as this. We are at a record depth, on a top-secret mission to survey a newly discovered geological rift in the mid-Atlantic Trench. Captain Stewart was ordered to collect data from sensors specifically designed to analyze hydrothermal activity within the rift. We've been here for 3 days, and everything was going smoothly until... I pause, unsure how to describe what started happening 12 hours ago. Until we started hearing the knocking. Knocking is too simple a word to describe it. At first, they were so faint that only the audio technicians heard them. Gentle, rhythmic taps on the outer hull. I remember when Mendez, the lead audio tech, called me to a station. "Lieutenant, you should hear this," he said, handing me the headphones. At first, I heard nothing but the familiar sounds of the submarine, the hum of the engine, the ticking of equipment, the water rushing against the hull. But then, there was another sound, a rhythmic tapping. Talk, talk, talk. "Could be sea life," I said, trying to stay calm, even though I knew well that at this depth, almost no creature was large enough to create such a sound. Maybe a giant squid. "The tapping is too regular, sir," Mendez shook his head, "and it's following a pattern. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause, repeating exactly every 47 seconds. I wasn't an acoustics expert, but I knew enough to realize that marine life couldn't create such a precise sound pattern. I reported it to Captain Stewart. He instructed us to monitor and record the sound, but take no other action. The mission was the priority. 6 hours later, things got worse. The knocks became louder. I continue the recording. Loud enough for everyone on board to hear. No longer a subtle sound, but like someone banging on the hull with a heavy tool. The pattern remained the same. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks, pause. The captain ordered a full system check. All normal. No signs of structural damage or leaks. I take a sip of cold coffee and grimace. I suggested leaving the area, but the captain insisted the mission must be completed. We are scheduled to collect data for another 4 to 8 hours. I pause, unsure if I should add my speculations. But if something happens to us, I want people to know. The entire crew is on edge. Chen and Patel claim they can hear whispers mixed with the knocking. Although no one else has confirmed this, the mood on board is extremely tense. I hesitate, then add, "Some sailors think the sound is like Morse code, but when decoded, it doesn't mean anything. Just 3 dots repeating. 3 dots in Morse is S. SOS would be 3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots. This is just S, 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 repeating. I was about to end the recording when I heard a knock on my cabin door. It was Mendez, face pale. "Lieutenant, you should come to the control room immediately," he said, voice trembling. I quickly followed him through the cramped corridors to the control room. Captain Stewart was standing in front of the sonar screen, his face set in stone. "Reeves," he nodded as I entered. "Listen to this." He played the sonar audio over the speakers. The knocking had changed. Now it was faster, harder, and had a new pattern. 3 fast knocks, 3 slow knocks, 3 fast knocks. Standard Morse code for SOS. Is there someone out there? Or something? "Impossible, Captain," I protested. "We are at a depth of over 3,000 meters. No civilian submersible can go this deep, and no other military subs reported in this sector." "I know that, Captain," he replied, voice strained. "But something is knocking on our ship." "Could be an ROV," I suggested, referring to remotely operated vehicles used for deep-sea research. "Maybe a research team." He cut me off. "We checked all radio frequencies. No sign of ROVs within 100 miles. I was about to suggest another theory when I felt the ship shudder. Not a slight vibration, but a violent impact that made us all stumble. "Report!" the captain shouted. "No structural damage," an officer yelled. "All systems stable." "What the hell just hit us?" the captain roared. "Checking sonar data," the sonar tech said, pressing buttons on his console. "No object detected." Another impact, harder this time, tilting the sub to one side. I grabbed a console for balance. "All stations, check for damage," the captain ordered over the intercom. Minutes passed as reports came in. No structural damage, no leaks, no system errors, but something was hitting us without leaving a physical trace. And then, silence. The knocking stopped. No more impacts, just an eerie quiet. "End mission," the captain finally said. "Prepare to return to the surface." No one objected. As we began surfacing procedures, I returned to my cabin to finish the log. "There have been incidents," I say into the mic. "We are preparing to surface." The knocking changed to SOS code and the ship was struck twice by an unknown force. No damage, but the captain decided to end the mission early. I pause, unsure what else to say. This log will make me sound crazy, but I know what I heard, what we all heard. I don't know what's waiting for us down there, but I believe we were right to. A piercing alarm cuts me off. The cabin lights turn emergency red. The Exo's voice booms over the speakers. "All hands to stations! We are being pulled down!" I rush back to the control room, heart pounding. Panic has set in. Officers are shouting, pressing buttons frantically. "Engines at full power, but we're still sinking," an officer yells. "Auxiliary engines, engage," the captain orders. "Engaged at full power, Captain. We're still sinking." I look at the depth gauge and feel my blood freeze. The numbers are climbing. 3,300 meters, 3,350 meters, 3,400 meters. "Something is pulling us down," the captain says, his voice suddenly strangely calm. "Mendez, play the knocking." Mendez obeys, and the room fills with the sound. It's no longer an SOS pattern. Now it's fast and relentless, like a rapid drumbeat. 3,500 meters. "Captain, we are exceeding safe depth," I shouted. "I know, Reeves," he replies, eyes glued to the screen, "but we can't stop it." 3,600 meters, 3,650 meters. "Decompress! Blow all ballast tanks!" the captain orders, but I hear the futility in his voice. "A message!" Mendez cries out. "I'm receiving a message on ultra-low frequency." "Put it on!" Mendez hits a button, and a voice fills the room. But it's not human. It sounds like the buzzing of thousands of small voices speaking at once, overlapping, creating a rhythmic white noise effect. And within it, I can distinguish a repeated message, though I don't understand the language. Only one word I recognize: Barracuda. They know our ship's name. 3,700 meters, 3,750 meters. The hull begins to groan as we exceed maximum depth. I know we have minutes before the pressure crushes us. Abandon ship, the captain screams. But we all know there is nowhere to go. No escape pod works at this depth. No suit can withstand this pressure. We are trapped. 3,800 meters, 3,850 meters. Suddenly the lights flicker and die, leaving only the red emergency glow. Electronics shut down, then reboot, displaying strange symbols and numbers I've never seen. And on the main screen, a simple message appears, not in English, but in ancient characters I've never seen. Yet, somehow, I understand it. We all understand. We have waited. 3,900 meters, 3,950 meters. The groaning of the hull becomes louder. Small cracks appear on the thick observation window. Water seeps in, first droplets, then small jets. "This is Lieutenant Adam Reeves," I say into my shoulder radio, knowing no one can hear, but hoping. USS Barracuda is being pulled into a rift in the Atlantic floor by something. Please warn all ships to stay away from this sector. Last coordinates, 48 north, 16 west. I repeat, stay away. A massive boom as the observation window shatters. Ice-cold seawater rushes into the control room. My crewmate's screams are drowned by the roar of water. My radio shorts out in the brine, and I feel the powerful current pull me out of the ship into the endless night of the deep ocean. Strange thing is, I didn't die immediately. I wasn't crushed by the pressure. Instead, I found myself floating, still conscious in the pitch-black water. And I wasn't alone. Thousands of small lights began to glow in the darkness around me, like underwater stars. They moved in patterns, forming shapes and structures my mind couldn't comprehend. And from the deep darkness below, something was rising. Something massive and ancient, with details human eyes couldn't process. I felt my mind being pulled into it, as if it were connecting to my brain. And I understood that it had been here, at the bottom of this ocean, since before humanity existed. An imaginably intelligent being, a creature that had spent thousands of years building a civilization we never knew about. And now, it was curious about us. I heard a voice in my head, not words, but ideas and images. We mean no harm. We only want to understand. It has been too long since we met new life. We will study you. We will learn. And perhaps one day we will visit your surface world. As my last consciousness faded, I realized we weren't the first to be pulled down here, and we wouldn't be the last. This recording was found in a black box that surfaced in the Atlantic 1 month after the USS Barracuda disappeared. The government denied the ship's existence, but 6 months later, an Irish fishing boat caught a strange specimen, a creature with a face almost human, but with gills and bioluminescent skin. It was wearing tattered remnants of a U.S. Navy uniform. The name tag read, Reeves, A. And witnesses said the creature kept tapping his fingers. 3 fast, 3 slow, 3 fast, SOS.
Story 5. The Skylight.
This is truly a wonderful place to live, Ms. Lynch, the real estate agent, told me,
excitement evident on her face as she unlocked the apartment door. "Especially for a writer like you. The view, the privacy, the building's rich history. It will provide endless inspiration." I smiled politely, not wanting to tell her my last book was rejected by 12 publishers. I moved to this small town not for inspiration, but to hide from creditors in New York. My title as a writer was becoming a bitter joke. "I especially like the loft area," I said, looking up at the spiral staircase leading to the upper space. "I've always wanted a private workspace up high." "Ah, yes, the loft," the agent, I think her name was Mercer or something similar, said enthusiastically. "That is the highlight of the apartment. Natural light floods in through the skylight, a view of the whole town of Ashburn, and some interesting history." "History?" I asked, starting to climb the stairs. Ms. Mercer seemed to hesitate. "Oh, just old stories. The building is over 135 years old, so naturally there are fascinating anecdotes. The previous owner, a painter, felt particularly creative working up here." "Sounds good," I replied. I didn't care about the history. I just needed a cheap place, and with this significantly reduced rent, I didn't have many options. The loft was indeed surprisingly beautiful. High ceilings, polished wooden floors, and a massive skylight. I could imagine my desk right under it, looking up at the night sky when inspiration failed. "Does this window open?" I asked, inspecting the metal frame. "Yes, of course," Miss Mercer nodded. "It has a very sturdy locking mechanism, important for a skylight, especially during storms. You just turn the handle and push." She turned the metal handle and pushed the window up. A rush of fresh air filled the room, carrying the scent of nearby pine forests. "Perfect," I said, looking at the blue sky. "I'll take it. When can I move in?" "Wonderful," Ms. Mercer beamed. "We can sign today and you can move in this weekend." As we went downstairs, I couldn't help but notice Mercer glancing back at the skylight with a look of worry. "Remember to lock that window," she said, her voice so soft I almost missed it. "Always lock it at night." I moved in on a rainy Saturday. My belongings were few, mostly books, an old laptop, and clothes, so unpacking took only a few hours. By evening, I felt at home, especially sitting in my small loft, listening to the rain on the glass. The next day was clear. I spent the morning exploring Ashburn, a quiet, small place. Everyone was friendly. No one asked about my writing career, which I was grateful for. Returning in the afternoon, I decided to actually work. I put my laptop on the desk under the skylight and opened a blank file. Surprisingly, words flowed. Maybe it was the fresh air. I wrote nearly 3,000 words before realizing it was dark. Excited by the progress, I decided to leave the skylight open while I cooked dinner, letting the fresh night air continue to inspire me. Only while washing dishes did I remember Ms. Mercer's warning, "Always lock it at night." An uncomfortable feeling washed over me. Of course, it was just common sense safety, but something in her voice. I hurried up to the loft to close it. Entering the room, a sudden cold gust blew my notes around. I went to the window, looking up at the starry sky, reaching for the handle, but I stopped. There was something there. On the roof, right next to the window, a dark shape, as if someone was lying prone on the roof looking in. Heart pounding, I stepped back. "Don't be silly," I told myself. "Just a shadow or a large bird. No one can climb this steep roof." I stepped forward again. Nothing, just night sky and stars. I shook my head, closed the window, and made sure to lock it tight. That night I didn't sleep well. I dreamt of scratching on the roof, gentle tapping on the glass, and a pale face watching me from the dark. I woke up several times, heart racing, only to hear the absolute silence of the apartment. Dawn came. I felt tired, but determined not to let irrational fear bother me. I brewed strong coffee and climbed to the loft to write. But when I entered the room, I froze. The skylight was wide open. I was sure, absolutely certain, I locked it last night. I checked twice. With trembling hands, I closed it again, checking the lock. It worked perfectly. No damage. Maybe I just imagined locking it, I muttered, or the wind was too strong. But deep down, I knew neither was true. That evening, I locked the window and checked it 3 times. I even placed a chair under the handle, ensuring that if it opened, the chair would fall and make noise. I slept poorly, constantly waking to listen. Nothing happened. Dawn came. I rushed to the loft, expectant and terrified. The window was still closed. The chair was still there. I breathed a sigh of relief and checked my phone. I had left it recording audio in the loft overnight. The 8-hour recording was mostly silence. I fast-forwarded, nothing unusual, until the very last minute. A whisper. So quiet I almost missed it. I rewound and turned the volume to max. Tomorrow night, I will come in. A raspy voice, barely human. I always come in. I sat there, frozen in fear. The phone dropped from my hand. That wasn't my voice, wasn't anyone's voice. I looked up at the skylight, still closed, still locked. And then I realized, whatever spoke those words, it didn't need to open the window to get in. It was already inside. Maybe it always had been. I left the apartment within an hour, leaving most of my stuff. I called Miss Mercer from a coffee shop, saying I needed to break the lease immediately. "I understand," she said, sounding unsurprised. "You're not the first." "Miss Lynch, why didn't you tell me?" I asked, voice shaking with anger and fear. "About that window, about whatever lives in the loft." Miss Mercer was silent for a moment. "No one believes us when we tell them. They think we're making excuses for the low rent. And it doesn't hurt anyone, does it? It just wants to see the world." "Through a window it can't open itself?" I asked. "I think so." I hung up and left Ashburn that day. I never went back. But sometimes on windy nights, I wake up and hear gentle tapping on my bedroom window. And I know, no matter how far I run, a part of me is still trapped in that loft, looking out through a skylight it can't open. And that thing, whatever it is, has followed me home.